I made a mistake at work and it cost a man his life. I used to work as a 911 dispatcher. I worked in the comm center that handled all of the fire rescue calls for our county. After being hired, I was in training for about a year. One of the things I learned was dealing with alternate street names. We had a highway called US 1790 Seconds that ran through our county, and it had several alternate street names. For example, one stretch was called Orlando Drive, another stretch was called French Avenue, etc. The problem was, we also had a residential street named French Avenue right off that highway. I was trained to enter the address as US 1790 Seconds, rather than one of the alternate street names if someone gave the address as Orlando Drive or French Avenue, because the computer-aided dispatch system wouldn't verify an address by alternate street names. I guess you can already see where this is going. My first shift after finishing training was an overnight from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I was assigned to work phones, which was my least favorite position after a year of people screaming in my ear and having to repeatedly ask for an address to dispatch units to. That night was thankfully slow. About 2 a.m., a woman called about a male patient in his 50s having a stroke. She was fairly calm and gave me the address as soon as I asked. It was on French Avenue, the residential one. Guess what address I entered? In unfathomable odds that I can never beat when playing the lottery, the same numeric of her address on French Avenue also existed on US 1790 Seconds. So the computer-aided dispatch system verified the address, and that's where the emergency response units were sent. At 2 a.m., it should have taken them 5 minutes max to get on scene. It took 15-20 minutes. They got to the address they were dispatched to, and it was a business that was closed. The comm center shift supervisor figured it out, but the delay and mistake were obvious to everyone. Soon after they arrived at the house, the paramedics called no code, no vitals. The patient was dead. I was written up for the delay and, as remedial training, sent to do a ride along with Station 31, the crew that responded to the call. One of the paramedics tried to make me feel better and said the patient had an extensive medical history, was in bad shape, and was probably gone right after she called. Then another paramedic said that the patient took his last breath as soon as he walked in the door. So much for feeling better. At least for a while. I worked there for about a year after that. The best thing that happened was talking parents of a newborn with a congenital heart defect through CPR after he stopped breathing. He was breathing again as the rescue was arriving on scene. I held on to that win. After 2 years, I was burned out and it was time to move on. You have to have a dark sense of humor and a thick skin to do that job. I knew I was getting too jaded after a motel manager called about a deceased elderly woman in a room. It was just before 11 a.m. I entered the information, turned to the dispatcher and said, "Send them code 3? She has to be out by 11 or they'll charge her for another day." Everyone laughed. Yeah, it was time to leave.